The City Council for the City of Rollingwood will come to order in a special City Council meeting Wednesday, March 25th, 2026 at 7:01 p.m. We will begin with roll call.
Brooke Brown.
Kevin Shell.
Kevin Glasheen.
Phil McGuffey.
Sarah Hudson.
Gavin Masco being quorum present, we will move on to public comment on items not on the agenda. Do we have anyone wishing to make public comment on items?
Yeah, okay.
Shanti?
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Come on up, Shanti.
Hi, Mayor, council members. I just wanted to thank Alan Thomas and his team that helped at the, recycling. It was done wonderfully well this time. You had 3 different areas, so you could recycle items instead of just putting it all in the dumpster, and everything went smoothly. I know people were not happy that it was during the weekend of spring break, and perhaps you'll have another one in the fall that doesn't coincide with some other holiday like that. I'm just conveying what people are saying, okay? But I was happy, and I really applaud you and team over here, Izzy and his people and your people, everybody, our people. Thank you all so much. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Shanti. Any other, anyone else wishing to make public comment on items not on the agenda? Sure, come on up. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. We're over here. That's okay.
No,
But
you gotta be on the mic.
yeah, you have to be on the mic. Yeah, it's okay.
Can't jump over, you don't.
Yeah.
I'm not really prepared to make a presentation, and I didn't know there was a public comment thing on items off the agenda, but I have a couple of points that are kind of related. One, it's related to the ubiquitous use of 2-stroke engine blast machines for leaf blowers all over Rollingwood. Wakes me up on weekends when I shouldn't be woken up that early. I think that there's probably a violation in most cases of 2 of the city's own ordinances. One is about the noise ordinance. They're incredibly loud, and 2-stroke engines are incredibly high polluting. They pollute a lot worse than the biggest truck any of you own because you add oil to the fuel. So I'd like to come back with a better presentation, and perhaps a friend of mine who's worked on these issues in California, trying to get jurisdictions to shut down the use of these very highly offensive, environmentally very unsound tools. And they're everywhere, all the time. And the noise ordinance, maybe that's not the same as environmental pollution of the usual variety, but it's so loud all over the neighborhood all the time, it's crazy. So I'd like to come back and have a better opportunity with more information to make that presentation sometime. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Anyone else? Is that it? Oh, we'll just need it.
Yeah, name and address.
Yeah, Phil, Lindsay will work with you on that. Okay, good deal. Well, hearing no other public comment, we will move off public comment and move on to presentations. Agenda item number 2. Presentation and update on water pressure in the City of Rollingwood's water distribution system. I'd like to start with Izzy. Give us a little bit of an update now that we are coming to an official close of our CIP improvement projects, and kind of what you're seeing in the field. And then we also have ESD 9 here. If we need them, we can have a discussion, although that's not really why they're here, but I've just put you on the spot, so be thinking about it.
Sure, it's good to know the experts are here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Izzy Parra, Public Works Director. I'm here to just share some findings or some data that was collected in coordination with the Westlake Fire Hills Fire Department. Fire hydrant testing was conducted following completion of the water CIP project. That was back in November, but the testing was done here recently in March. Just to give you some typical test parameters for a residential area, static pressure typically needs to be between 50 and 80 psi. TCEQ minimum pressure is 35 psi under normal conditions. Residual pressure should be above 20 psi during flow, with the target range of being 20 to 40 psi and above. Minimum fire flow expectations should be between 500 and 1,000 gallons per minute. Target fire flow should be 1,000 gallons per minute plus for adequate fire protection. Note, residual pressure below 20 psi is generally considered inadequate for fire protection. There was 4 locations where the fire hydrants were tested. The first one being over at Bee Cave Woods. And this is the test hydrant on Bee Cave Woods, flow hydrant on, that was the test one. And the flow hydrant is on Bee Cave Road, just west of Bee Cave Woods. With that being said, on their findings on March 10th were static was 60 psi, the residual was 55 psi, and the flow was 42 psi. The flow was over 1,000, which was almost 1,100 gallons per minute, with a prediction of at 20 psi, which would be over 3,300 gallons per minute. The next location was on Hatley Drive. Test location, test hydrant, which was at 3226 Park Hills, and flow hydrant was at 3214 Park Hills. The initial test that was done back in March 10th, the static pressure was 78 psi. The residual was 26 psi with the flow of 22 psi. The flow at that time was just under 800 gallons per minute with a prediction of 20 psi. 835 gallons per minute at 20 psi. We actually tested that hydrant this morning, and that changed to the residual, which was 78 psi. Static was 78 psi with the residual of 55 psi. We didn't have the tool to capture what the flow was going to be at an estimated, gallons per minute during flow. The next location was over on Riley Road. The location test hydrant was on 2501 Hatley, and the flow hydrant was at 2401 Hatley. The static pressure back on March 10th was 108 psi, with the residual being 70 psi, with the flow being 48 psi. With the flow, the gallons estimated was 1,163 gallons per minute, with a predicted of 20 psi at 1,830 gallons per minute. The final one that was checked was on Edge Grove Drive and South Crest Drive near the Shell station. The data that was collected back then was on March 10th was static 82 psi, with the residual being 66 psi, and with the flow of 52 psi. Flow over 1,210 gallons per minute, with a prediction of 2,500 gallons per minute at 20 psi. Key observations: significant improvements in flow capacity observed in Bee Cave Woods and Riley Woods area. Hatley Drive shows consistent performance with no noticeable change. All tested locations maintain residual pressures above the 20 psi minimum during flow, and several locations now exceed over the 1,000 gallons per minute for residential fire protection. Next steps would be continuous monitoring of the system's performance post CIP. Review areas with minimal improvement, which is the Hatley Drive. It's on our radar. We're working with Crossroads, with engineering, and with the fire department, make sure that we have those PRVs tuned in where they're supposed to be, where it's actually working at the minimum PSI, but with the greatest flow needed for the system. and share results with stakeholders and maintain records for future comparison.
Thank you, Izzy. Yeah, I wanted to put this back on the agenda for you all as sort of a kind of a recap of a follow-up. After 2 years of CIP projects, it's sometimes easy to forget why we embarked on the projects to begin with. But this is it. We have seen significant improvements. We'll continue to do that now that we have the actual work done, and we've already talked to the fire department to circle back in some of their areas and do some continued testing, and also maybe do some real world sort of scenarios. We unfortunately had a very real world scenario over a year ago, and so we'll kind of revisit some of those areas and see if we can make sure that we've got the pressures that we need if we do have an emergency that we need to respond to. So, but it's all positive, but just wanted to kind of recap that we are seeing the types of results that we were hoping to see when we undertook the projects to begin with. So I can, sure. Thank you, Izzy. I may call you back up depending on what Tom asks. But.
Tom Farrell, 3223 Park Hills Drive.
Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be able to be here. I wanted to ask the question that since we've done this fine work of bringing up our water supply, are we going to resubmit our application to get our fire rating? I can't remember whether it's up or down, but our count done, so that each of us that live in the city will have a better fire rate and a lower premium we have to pay for our fire insurance.
I thank you for your question. Now we've already talked about it, and I know what the answer is, but I'm gonna call the folks up who know how to answer this better than I. So.
Thanks, Mayor, Council.
But we have we or have we not had this discussion in the last few weeks?
We've talked about it just a few
you
weeks
go.
ago, I think, when we met. So it's called the Insurance Service Office that issues a public protection class rating. And so the lower the number, the better the number. City of Rolling Wood's a PPC of 2, and so 1 is the best. Generally, that has to do with really 50% is the fire department, 10% is dispatch, some of the other items, but 40% is water. And so with the water improvements, that's something we can evaluate and see how much of a gap there is between a 2 and a 1. Being a 1, an ISO of rating of 1, improves insurance rates, improves it a lot for the residential, but there's a big impact for the commercial area for an ISO 1. So we expect to, with the flows, Izzy's reporting that we've seen from the fire department and the work together, we expect to see probably a bump a little bit in the rating for water, and then we'll just have to evaluate the other ratings for fire department when we talk about, one of the things they look at is your closeness to a fire station. I think that's something we'll be discussing later on.
And so, without a spoiler alert for the agenda item later on, would it potentially make sense to bundle, like if we're going to do something and you're going to be here on site, those two things taken together probably would have more effect on that rating, right?
It would, and we can request a rating. So if just water changes or just fire changes, where they don't have to do a full reclassification, they can just look at those individual items, and so it'd be worth looking at. It's probably if both happen, that would be the best time to get your best rating.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
If we could bundle those together. I would tell you to help us remember to do that, but I know Tom will help us remember to do that. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Any questions on agenda item number 2? Hearing none, we'll move off of agenda item number 2, move on to agenda item number 3, presentation and discussion regarding the MOPAC South Expansion Project. Council, I put this on for your consideration, but really it's more to just sort of bring it back to the forefront. I've got some suggestions on ways to move forward. We are now in public comment period to CTRMA. I will start by saying, once again on the record, very appreciative of CTRMA and their willingness to work, to collaborate, think constructively, collaborate, and be as amenable as they can be to make changes to their plan. It doesn't mean that we, at the end of the day, will be for it. May not mean that we're against it either. I think we're getting close to some decision points on where we are going to be on our position regarding the overall project, but I do want to say I really do appreciate CTRMA. I think they've made significant alterations to their plans and thought creatively on some issues. We put in the packet this evening a presentation, a good example of their willingness to work with us. This is a slide deck that they put together specifically for Rollingwood and Westlake Hills at our joint request. So it's not really anything that you'll see in their other presentations, or probably not even in their public comment section. We ask jointly for some specific data points regarding the project. You'll also see in this presentation a lot of attention given to the intersection. And a new development, I think that's safe to say, we have talked about in the past a diverging diamond, a remodel of that intersection, and looked at the possibility of doing a diverging diamond. At the time that we first looked at that, or that it was proposed, or at least put on the table for discussion, those were sort of a new development in terms of engineering design for roadways in and around the Austin area. We now have a few of those examples that have been in place for several years now. The one that I think most often comes to mind, at least for me, is the one down at Circle C when you're going in and out of that area. There's also one up north by the IKEA in Round Rock that you may be familiar with. There is more data on that type of design now. I think it does significantly improve the congestion at intersections. There's some safety improvements as well. It would take some getting used to us. I think that for us who would use it every day. That said, I think maybe the largest development here is that they are now willing to sort of include this in their design considerations when they're looking at the overall project, and that would also potentially come with some funding that they would help facilitate. So I do think that is a significant I'm not going to call it a concession, but a significant concession that they've put on the table for our consideration. There's some other issues. Amy, can I call you to the dais just so we can have a dialogue? Amy's been great to help.
And can you tell us what you called that intersection style?
Diverging diamond. Or is it divergent diamond or divergent?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Diverging diamond, I think, is how they refer to it.
I'm going to Google it.
And there's I believe.
It's in the paperwork?
Yeah, you can. It's
in the PDF?
It's on
Scroll
page
down.
15 in the packet.
All right, thanks.
If you've been through one, you know, because you'll end up driving on the left-hand side of the road for a while.
Yes.
And it's kind of disorienting initially,
Takes a little getting used to, but
depending on where you're from.
yeah. Yeah. Not as much for Alan. Alan got used to it quickly. Amy, would you agree? I think that they've been, again, whether we agree or disagree at the end of the day, I think they've been very open and transparent and helpful and kind of gone above and beyond, especially James Bass, wouldn't you say?
I would say that the amount of dialogue on our ability individually, me and my role as an appointee from Travis County, being able to be in the meetings with Westlake Hills and Rollingwood, of asking questions and getting data points that have been asked for before and not provided, that those have been provided now. I can't think of a question that we asked during the meeting where we didn't get data, either at the next meeting or afterwards. So I did appreciate that. And it does seem like Director Bass is trying to look for solutions.
Yeah, I agree. I think what the best path forward would, in my mind, would be for us to probably schedule a work session, a work group with council and probably the task force. Might even invite Westlake Hills, or at least Mayor Vaughn and a few folks from there to come in and just kind of have a work session, not where we make any decisions, but there's a lot of meat on this bone, and it's hard to digest. And I've been in a number of meetings, and it's still hard to digest. And I think, and I'm not sure, we probably know enough among ourselves to not have to invite CTRMA. I think we might have a more candid discussion without them. But I'm open to what, however council wants to approach it. But I think probably just having a work session to kind of talk through the different components of the plan. They did make some accommodations to the various toll lanes and the ingress and egress points in those lanes. They also, as part of the design component to the diverging diamond, and this is easier to point out when we could use the big screen, but I call it a dedicated lane. I was told why it couldn't be called a dedicated lane, but as part of the entrance onto Mopac, if you're coming from Rollingwood onto Mopac, there would actually be a center lane that would go up in between what are now the overpasses, and so it would be somewhat of a dedicated entry point for anyone coming, traveling east, going north. You would enter that diverging diamond, and then you would have an opportunity to get onto that toll lane directly within the intersection, which is another creative design component that they added to this for our consideration that I think does truly help for our residents that are traveling north. I think that in my mind, kind of the two hanging issues out there for anyone who is traveling north back to our neighborhood, there are increased travel times. So if you're going from, say, the Domain back this direction, there is an increase in travel time. I don't know if that, for us, does that reach a level of concern that it would cause us not to, give general support or at least not oppose the plan. I don't know. I think that's the kind of discussion that we would need to have in a work session before we make any final decisions on where we are in terms of public comment.
Can I make one clarification?
Yes.
On that? So even if they build the proposal, there's still going to be increased travel times on the regular lanes. So the clarification I think that's important is if they build the project, people who are used to being able to take the toll lane from the Domain and exiting Bee Caves are going to experience longer travel times using the toll lane.
That's why I put you there.
Yeah. Well, you
Correct
asked
that.
me to.
No, that's
You
why.
asked me to check your
You
homework.
were there to grade my papers. So
Yes, that's what it was.
No, that is a good point.
Yeah.
And so there's some of those sorts of issues that I think are worthy of our discussion. Again, they did move the entry and exit points to some extent to make some of that a little bit better. The other thing I think that Amy and I have both talked about in previous versions that we've seen, the what we refer to as the elevated lanes, that would be kind of the exit point to come off and get to Bee Cave Road. In previous versions, they were quite elevated. We have heard in meetings verbally that those will be at elevation now, and so they won't be either not elevated at all or less elevated.
At elevation with what the statement that was made was that they were going to be at elevation of where the existing Bee Caves overpasses.
Yes.
That they would be next to it.
Right.
This is so I was going to point out that the questions that we asked during the meeting, I feel like we had a lot of them answered. The thing that came up after, that I hope we would get information if there was a work session to be able to evaluate it, would be an accurate drawing of the side view as now being stated.
Right.
Because if you look at videos that are online, it still shows that there's a significant distance between where the Bee Cave Road overpass is right now and where the elevated lane would be, but we've been verbally told that they're aligned. And so to have something that is a little more concrete showing that would be helpful.
Yeah. And in my mind, that issue still hangs out there. And that issue sort of leads to, in my mind, how much, if at all, additional noise mitigation measures and that sort of thing would need to transpire. Amy makes a good point. If you can do noise mitigation, but if you only do noise mitigation on the far side of the road, then all you're doing is bouncing the sound the other direction. Some of those issues, full disclosure and spoiler alert, some of those will not be our call, because only the actual property owners get to participate in that noise mitigation request and process, and it's not, and we are not one of those owners. City of Austin is potentially, the church is potentially.
The church is not.
I thought James thought that they would be included.
Well,
But anyway,
on what they've released right now, the church is excluded.
is excluded.
Right.
So really that noise mitigation part is going to kind of come out down to the City of Austin, so we would need to have some dialogue with them as to what their thoughts are on some of that. Again, these are issues I think that we would kind of work through in a work session. Yes, ma'am.
What's the timeline on this?
We have till the end of April to make public comment. What's the date?
May 3rd is the May 3rd is
May
the
3rd.
public comment
There you go.
deadline.
And I saw on the news today, they say construction isn't expected to start till 2031, probably.
I hadn't heard a timeline.
I hadn't heard that date, but that tracks with what I would think is probably reasonable. Because this is,
KXAN.
yeah.
There is on the dates as well. There's CTRMA has a board meeting on April 29th. That's their next board meeting. And during the last public comment period, I thought it was really helpful and effective that there were members of Rollingwood, Westlake Hills, the Westlake Chamber that attended that board meeting, as well as community members, and spoke. I think it's helpful for the board members to be able to hear comments directly from people in that time.
Yeah, and I would,
it'd be good to have
yeah,
a cohesive statement.
agreed. And honestly, I think when we did that, we started making some progress shortly thereafter. I think having that,
What is that date and time again?
April 29th at 9 a.m.
is the meeting.
is the
Yeah.
If I could also suggest,
Yes.
I think the work session is a great idea, and would be a helpful way to move forward, because there is so much information to digest, and to have the maps out like we've had in the past would be really helpful. Because of one of the things that's being proposed on the intersection would actually eliminate the travel from over, like if you were at Salt Traders, and right now you can come through the light and head west on Bee Cave Road. That would be eliminated, where that traffic would then have to go down Wallingwood and do a loop onto the frontage road to come around. And I don't know how that would impact what I thought is it could impact kind of the lunchtime crowd that businesses on Bee Caves Road are used to receiving from that area, which is quite a few people in those businesses right there.
Could you not also go down towards the park and come under?
You could.
And go
You
up
could.
Rollingwood Drive?
Hmm.
Yeah, you could.
Well, then you'd be cutting through Rollingwood Drive, but either way, it's not the same. It would.
Or up the frontage road and to get to,
Right.
from the north end, right?
It's just going to be a little bit longer path for people. So I was looking at that and potentially other impacts to businesses, and it may be helpful if RCDC does meet in April, if they were open to allowing businesses to come and be able to participate.
It sounds like City of Austin businesses
They
would
are.
be
Well,
impacted, right?
yes, but I think Amy's talking about the tenants and the folks who office there, because some of them, you know, they go to Chinatown or Pepitas, or Chinatown or Pepitas.
Those are the two that come to mind.
Those are the two
Panera.
that come to
Panera.
Panera.
And
Sorry,
Panera, yeah.
didn't mean to.
But there's not a whole lot of restaurants in Rollingwood, and maintaining a lunchtime crowd, I know, is really important.
Yep, I agree. All right, so council, there's really no action to be taken on this. It was just kind of putting it before you. Alan's been in a number of these meetings as well. Feel free to take a look at these, this specialized slide deck, and ask any questions that you want. And if you're so inclined, if it's okay with you, we'll go ahead and move forward and try to find a date that works for council and task force. We'll reach out to Westlake Hills, see if they want to come, just kind of do a roundtable work session with us and kind of talk through it.
It would be helpful to be able to see it bigger than this size.
We'll-
That's
Yes, we'll.
a lot of detail.
I think
on-
Amy makes a great. I know the maps that she refers to. They were
Yeah.
very large and took up the entire floor. But we'll see if we can't get some of those large maps too.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rollingwood, having printed them each time and having them available, has been fantastic. As far as I know, the city of Rollingwood has had the only kind of publicly available copies that are big, other than what was at the open house last night. That was, I don't know how many people attended it. I wasn't able to go, but it definitely is easier to look at the maps in a big format.
Thanks for all your effort and attention to this issue, looking out for the people of Rollingwood.
I second
pleasure.
that. Thank you, Amy.
Can I ask
Yes,
a
ma'am.
question? Actually, a question and a comment. So, originally they were supposed to have a 2-tier over the river. Is that taken out now?
Yeah, we don't think that's.
Okay,
Yeah,
that was
that was long ago. Yeah. I think,
okay.
Yeah.
The only comment I couldn't pass up saying this today. Went to the Texas Archives on a history group. Once a month we go different places or have meetings. So this was something they showed us in the archives. It was called the Missouri Pacific Boulevard, and the city of Austin, September 1st, 1966, is when the MOPAC started, and there is some calculations here about how much they paid,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm happy to just give
Sure.
this to y'all and some of the commentary. So I just took pictures of that document, and the maps are not very good, but then they show you where the exits will be, and they were estimating the traffic to be like 16,000, and I mean, the scale of operation was so different. But I think just for
Yeah, yeah.
y'all to have it,
Yeah. that'd be
and
great.
it happened today, so I
Mhm.
just took pictures.
Okay, awesome.
Let y'all have
Turned into quite the boulevard.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, council, we will move off of agenda item number 3 and move on to the consent. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sure. Sure, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. Come on up.
Thank you, Mayor Massengill, members of the council, for your service to the community. I'm Bill Bunch. I'm Executive Director and Attorney for Save Our Springs Alliance. We work quite well with former Mayor Tom Farrell and Amy Patillo a decade or more ago when this first came forward. And people thought it was sort of a done deal then, but it wasn't. And I want to urge you to not think of it as a done deal this time either. And in fact, there's quite a few reasons why it's not even the right thing to do, even more so than it wasn't the right thing to do back then. A few key things. It's certainly appropriate for y'all to focus on these, intersection details. Entirely understand that, and you have great people helping you with that. Please think about some of the other issues that are super important to you and to your voters and your constituents. And we have quite a few members in Rollingwood, Westlake, who are, concerned about those details, but also the larger things. This is a direct threat to Barton Springs, to Zilker Park, to the Nature and Science Center, to Zilker Botanical Gardens, both of those bump right up to the highway, to the hike and bike trail that I know all of your people enjoy just as much as we do who live in Austin. I've been in the Zilker neighborhood for over 30 years. A huge part of this that people don't think about, and that's completely ignored in this draft environmental assessment, is the construction phase. They write this document as if this project is going to fall out of the sky and be there. I mean, we're talking about 6 to 7 years of nightmarish construction and construction delays, air, noise, and water pollution, and traffic slowdowns. And in other places where they've had these big kind of projects, the delays in commuters during the construction phase, it never even breaks even for literally decades. So this project doesn't make sense in a lot of ways. I want to specifically invite you to engage in the community fabric discussion. We have now, it's not 100% certain, but I'm fairly certain we're going to have a big community meeting on Earth Day, Wednesday, April 22nd at Austin High School in the cafeteria, which happened 10 years ago, and a lot of people participated. We'd love to have you be part of that and to get the word out to Rollingwood residents to participate. Right now, they were just having one public meeting. It was last night at Bowie High, where there was no public hearing. There's no opportunity for people to hear other people's concerns, hear their questions, have the questions answered in public. We need to have that. The deadline you heard on comment is May 3rd. We're asking for an extension of at least 45 days. I think Travis County is going to ask for that. Travis County is also joined with asking for a full environmental impact statement, which right now they're just doing this truncated environmental assessment with the idea that they can make a conclusion of no significant impacts. I mean, it's impossible to build a project of this scale. I mean, it's beyond absurd to say there's no significant impacts to water, air, light, noise pollution, traffic delays, harm to businesses like you've discussed. And so we would invite you to join with Travis County, and we have a broad coalition of neighborhoods also joining in that called Better MOPAC Coalition. BetterMOPACCoalition.org is a website we're populating with more information. Our experts are analyzing all this right now. The reason we need more time is the document itself is only about 110 pages. But there's over 2,500 pages of technical reports that it is relying on and trying to wade through all of that information and this whole long list of major concerns of what does this really mean for our community? What does it mean for Barton Springs, which none of us would even be here but for Barton Springs, extremely vulnerable to both construction phase, post-construction phase pollution, along with Lady Bird Lake. And what we've seen since they started this years ago, and now we're here, they projected that the traffic would be so much worse today in those early projections, and it didn't happen. Part of it was COVID, and so you have people telecommuting. The congestion is, I mean, it's real. Y'all see it, you know that. We need to do, we have some alternatives that are not this big and harmful to address and improve MOPAC traffic flow without just benefiting the long distance commuters and at the expense of us in the central city who are trying to get east-west and who would like to be able to have access to MOPAC as well.
If you'd pause there, what are
Sure.
your alternative suggestions?
Well, so last night at the Bowie meeting, a number of people that I spoke to who drive it regularly, if on the afternoon southbound, there's a huge stack up north of William Cannon where you have 290 coming in and Southwest Parkway merging, and it all breaks down to 2 lanes. And then you add on several others. Well, there's plenty of room in the right-of-way right now, and actually there's enough pavement actually to add an additional lane to address that bottleneck without building a giant highway. Once you get past William Cannon, peak rush hour when there is congestion, it's wide open once you get past William Cannon and you're on your way to Slaughter Lane. So that's one. An HOV lane, we could simply dedicate in the central, the inside lanes, rush hour HOV lane. We see those all over. Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio has rush hour in just only peak when you have to have 2 or 3 passengers to use it. That's something they could try out and would help in this congestion period. Going back, so when they were pushing this in the 2012 to 2015 timeframe, they were predicting that adding these toll lanes would save over 20 minutes. They were saying 24 minutes at the peak rush hour if you drove the whole 8 miles. Now they're saying it only actually saves 5 to 6 minutes if you're using the toll lanes. It saves, there's 12 to 14 minutes for the free lanes. So the value is not worth the candle, especially if you think about those years of delays of commuter, just looking at it straight commuters. New technology is helping us use the pavement more efficiently. We all use, our Waze and Google to just avoid when it's really congested. And so that's what we're seeing. The traffic is spreading out over the time of day, so it's not, having these horrible short periods of time where it's really bad. So please work with the larger community. Think about these other issues that do affect you, your constituents. We need to save. We need to have this highway serve the locals and not just for long distance commuters. So thank you very much for your consideration. Look forward to working with y'all and cooperating. And I'll let y'all know right away to confirm the April 22 meeting at Austin High School.
Great, thank you, Bill.
Thanks.
Okay, have I missed anyone else that wanted to testify? Okay. With that, we will move off of agenda item number 3 and move on to the consent agenda. Happy to take a motion.
I would like to, I have some edits to the minutes.
Sure.
I would move approval of the other 2 agenda items.
Okay, you have a motion to approve
5 and 6.
items 5 and 6. Is there a second? You have a motion by Ms. Brown, a second by Mr. Shell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Being 5 ayes, no nays, motion carries. With that, we will take up agenda item number 4. Recognize Ms. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 2 of the minutes, under item 3, the second statement is Councilmember Brown requested that the principal interest be year to year instead of 5 years. That should read that the principal and interest be shown year by year instead of 5 years.
Okay, you got that? Okay.
And then on page 3, item 11, it's the third sentence under item 11. Councilmember Brooke Brown suggested putting in a curb at the curb cut. That should read, Councilmember Brown suggested insert the access being sought is strike putting in a curb at the, so that it would read the access being sought is a curb cut from the rear of the lot.
Good correction. I remember you saying that.
And then mine, Brooke has no E. There are 2 times that Brooke is shown with an E.
Brookie.
I am a pre-Brooke Shields Brooke. The E only shows up after Brooke Shields. The sentence then on the 4th page, the very top. The sentence that begins with Ahmad Prodell, resident at 200 Almerian Way, that sentence needs a verb.
We will add one.
Add verb. And then on item 13, Police Chief Crystal Munoz explained the reasoning for switching from Ford Explorer to the Chevrolet Tahoe.
Got it. Do you have those noted?
So that, and with those corrections, I would move approval of the item number 4.
You have a motion by Ms. Brown to approve the minutes as corrected. Is there a second?
Second.
You have a motion by Ms. Brown, a second by Ms. Hudson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Being 5 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Thank you, council. Moving off agenda item number 4, moving on to the regular agenda. Agenda item number 7, discussion and possible action on the City Hall Improvement Project. As we stated last month, council will continue to take steps each month to continue our march toward having a new and improved City Hall and public safety facility. And with that, following last month, we had a couple of meetings with ESD9. It occurred to me that before we get too far back down this road, we need to make sure that our partners are still partners. And so we had a good meeting with Chief, and he had an opportunity to get with his commission and make sure that we're all still on the same page. And with that, I will recognize Chief.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. Appreciate you all having me this evening. And we have been communicating with Alan and the mayor, and looking forward to discussing the possibility of a future project. We had our board meeting last night, so I've kind of provided an executive summary, and I apologize it didn't make your packet just with our meeting last night with our Board of Commissioners. So I've got that on your table there, but just a front cover sheet that wanted to let you all know that Travis County ESD9 is proud to serve the city of Rollingwood and the citizens of Rollingwood, and we do continue to feel that adding an additional unit in the future would improve response times for the city. Our Board of Commissioners is definitely interested and still committed to the resolution that you've probably seen from 2022. I know it's been a little while since we've discussed this in this setting, but the commissioners are still interested in evaluating all of those options for a possibility of a future public safety or fire presence in the city of Rollingwood. On page 2 of that packet, I've provided the resolution, and I think you've all seen that with the highlighted bullet points that the board is interested in, the location and design of a shared facility, the interests of the facility to be held by the district, whether it's joint ownership with the city, ownership of separate units, or how that may work, the cost to the district in terms of payments, and opportunities. One of the main things is opportunities to all of our constituents, whether that's City of Rollingwood, ESD9, and then the increased service we'd be able to provide with an additional unit that's also providing City of Rollingwood, but the whole area to that. On page 4, did want to provide you just a quick overview of our incidents and our responses. You'll see there are responses, pretty consistent year over year. The past 2 years, we ran over 2,200 incidents, but you'll see in the City of Rollingwood, we had about 165 incidents within the city. Generally, that's around pretty consistent, or 175, 200 incidents that we respond to in the city. With those, the majority of the incidents you'll see on page 5 on the heat map. I know that's a little bit small. That compares to 24 and 25, but you'll see the heat map along Bee Caves Road. What was kind of interesting in 24 and 25 is, it's hard to see, but it's kind of the northern side of Rollingwood, had a little bit larger call volume than previous years. And so what we're seeing is a trend in the city along Bee Caves Road, the commercial corridor, where our incidents are increasing. Page 6 shows kind of our standard of cover. What we want to see when we look at these maps is we want to see green. And so green means we're meeting our response times. And so you can see the improvement we've been able to do, but they're still in that kind of southern area along Bee Caves Road where we'd still like to see improved service. And so I think that's something that our commissioners are definitely interested in with those. Page 7 kind of discussed briefly what a fire apparatus that we're looking at for the city of Rollingwood. When I showed you the incidents, 50 to 60% of our incidents are medical in nature. And so having a 2 firefighter squad is something that we're looking at. The vehicle still has some fire suppression activities, still has fire pump, 400 gallons of water. You could use a, grass fire, car fire. It could start suppression on a small residential or shed type item, but also carries gas monitors, all of our EMS first responder equipment. And so it's a valuable apparatus that we feel like would fit the area well. Page 8, I think the mayor has kind of an updated version of the kind of shared space. This was an initial design and kind of looking at our space when we met with the Board of Commissioners of the items we would need. The items we were looking for a shared use facility, so a bay basically to house a fire apparatus, sleeping quarters, showers. And we met with Chief Munoz, and a lot of these, where the opportunity is with this is a lot of these can be shared. And so there's a place for, a weight room, as an example. Firefighters can use that, but so can the police officers. And so the shared use facility is really what's, attractive to the ESD and to the Board of Commissioners when we look at those. And then lastly, something we kind of reviewed of, with the mayor is the last page shows you a kind of detailed map of if this fire station was staffed and existed, what area would it cover? And I know you'll see kind of Fire Station 32 there off kind of across from the finish line off Montebello. So they're in the general area if they're in station, if they're not responding to other incidents. But you can see that not only would it cover City of Rollingwood, but it goes into, looks like, Hill Country, kind of goes into Westlake Hills a little bit. And so it provides value, like I said, to not only the citizens of Rollingwood, but it expands our response and response capabilities throughout our ESD. And so as we looked at this, and last night, the board, I know we have a dollar figure that's listed on the resolution, and the board, still wanted to make sure that we were, having discussions. We would like to see those discussions progress and look at opportunities that I think we can both benefit from.
And so do you feel like, if we did sort of all of this, and you took a look at kind of our revised,
Yes.
and you are correct, it was based off of your original. But if we can do all of those shared use spaces in addition to those spaces that are specific to you, you think that would still keep us all on the same page for the 1.5 match?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's, and we talked about that, kind of in detail yesterday at our board meeting, and that's what the board is looking for. Is it needs to meet our needs.
Sure.
Just like you guys. But I think, yes, if we can do the things
If
we
we
kind
can
of
do-
highlighted in there, that's what we're looking at.
And that's what I felt. That's how I felt where we were. But I wanted to make sure we didn't get to the end. You say, "Oh nope, you forgot. You forgot the extra bunk bed." So, okay, no, that sounds great. And then, how do you typically, or how would you envision? So, let's say we do the partnership, we get it built. Would there? This is not a trick question, but what would the ongoing commitment for maintenance and operation be for the shared facilities? How do you envision us?
So I think,
Or what's ideal for you?
so we'd have to look at, and I think there's going to be some good examples. Our partners at ESD6 are looking at the same thing with the city of Bee Cave, and doing a joint police and fire station that they're doing. And so I think there's going to be examples we can look at. But maintenance operations costs, there's going to be obviously shared electrical use, shared water, and those kind of things. With upkeep, we'll have to have some kind of probably maintenance agreement that we would want to participate in. Stocking equipment and those kind of things. So I think there would be an ongoing commitment from the ESD that we also need to support, those functions.
Some ongoing
Yeah.
stuff. And
We
I think
also-
that's important for us to consider too, because there's ongoing value for us, because obviously there's shared use spaces. So,
And we do kind of do this similar. We have our fire station 902 and Loop 360 by the high school. We house an Austin Travis County EMS unit, so that's not one of our units. So they're in there. We have a relationship and interlocal agreement for just those things, maintenance, operations, costs, you know, how we support each other. And so I think that can be used as an example as well.
And would you, obviously, we're not there yet, but would we should we try to get the bones of an interlocal agreement in place before we build? Or, I mean, I'm fine doing it after, or do we need to do it where we're all sort of on the same page going in on the interlocal? I don't anticipate any
I don't know.
problems in that negotiation, but what's best practice?
I think that's something we would probably, you know, if there's a feasibility or, you know, a schedule that the city's looking at for, you know, if you're bringing on a professional, we probably want to have some of those outlines, you know, whether that's working with Alan or, you know, you or council of what that would look like for the district, just to make sure we're in agreement on, you know, long-term facility cost.
And my assumption, we could probably use something, if you've got other places that are already kind of ahead of us in the curve, we could probably just cut and paste some of those.
I think
types of
so too.
agreements, yeah.
Yeah. I don't foresee that delaying or, you know, slowing things down moving forward.
And do you anticipate if y'all made that kind of contribution, you know, there's words in here about like shared ownership and this and that. It's like, how do y'all structure something like that?
So I think that would be something with, that we'd have to look at with legal, you know, and how that looks. Some of them do, you know, you own the space, or they just, you know, transfer it and say that, you know, this amount provides you this space for
So long.
for so long,
Right.
and then you're responsible for maintenance operations moving forward.
That makes sense. I got one other question, if you don't mind. On
Yes, sir.
the Apparatus bays that show 900 square feet, it says stacked. What does that mean, stacked? And what it goes in an apparatus bay besides that vehicle that you showed us?
So that one, what page was that?
I'm sorry, it's on this page 8,
Oh, yes.
and it's in the purple section at the bottom, the first item, apparatus bays, 900. I assume that's square feet, but I left my reading glasses in the car.
That's what I'm using as well.
So I'm having to guess.
So stacked is generally if we want to put 2 units in here, but what we have for, and that just may be, you know, something that transferred over, but what we're looking for is a 33-foot apparatus bay. And so
Okay.
that can house
34
one,
feet deep.
yes, sir, that can house one fire unit. We always think it'll be the squad type vehicle that I provided in here. But if we're building something, it would be nice to plan for the future if we need to upsize an engine, that we can make sure that a full-size fire apparatus can fit in the
And
facility.
then you want it like about 30 feet wide also.
That gives us room on the side. It could be a little narrower,
Yeah.
you know, with
I
it.
was just trying to figure out the 900 square feet, what might go in there, so.
So that's that, and then we typically have our, you know, there's storage in there. There's some
Sure, of
hose,
course.
those kind of things that are along the wall.
Gear.
Yeah. on the bunker
And even
gear.
the tour we did with some of you sometimes have additional elevated.
We had some
storage.
elevated storage on our Loop 360 station, so we can get that off the floor and up overhead too.
Well, this is exciting. Thanks for being here.
Yes, sir.
What would, we're gonna continue to have a discussion here in a minute, and you can listen to that, but what, in terms of, what do you need from us in terms of next steps? Just to know what we're gonna do. when
I
we're
think
gonna do it.
so, and just for, you know, I think what's, you know, when we've done our station, we've gone through feasibility when we've done our new fire station, and just to make sure that, you know, we've hired a third party, an architect firm, you know, that provided us a feasibility of what it could look like, what could fit in the space, and so I think that would be something that, you know, we would be looking for to make sure that it can meet those needs.
And you, I think, told me previously you're willing to start doing some of the cost sharing up front as we retain some of these professionals.
Yes, and we have some, you know, dollars budgeted in anticipation since we've had the agreement. So we've had some dollars for construction in progress that we would think we would, you know, possibly use if we're doing a shared study or those kind of things. That would be something we would be willing to work with on the city.
Okay, all right, great. Any other questions for ESD 9? Chief, thanks for being here.
Yes, it was good seeing you all.
Yep.
Thanks for
Thank
having me.
you.
Appreciate it.
And we're still gonna talk for a minute about this. So that was the main, thing I wanted us to check the box on this evening, council, just to make sure that we're still, all on the same page with regard to our partners in ESD 9. The next item that I would like us to consider, and what I would request of council, is to give me the authority to go out for, not bid, but I would like to do a request for qualifications, an RFQ, for a project manager. We've had good luck. I've mentioned this a number of times in other settings. We've been really pleased with our relationship that we've had with Robert Dial for our CIP and our road projects. And as we talk about this and get into it, and we've talked about it at this dais before too, I do think it's going to be important for us to have a professional who is, for lack of a better term, our owner rep. And I think, as Alan and I have talked about it, probably having that individual sooner rather than later, before we hire an architectural firm, before we do some of the site planning and all of the different phases that we're going to need to do, it's probably a good idea to try to see who's out there to bring somebody like that on board early. I think that it will pay dividends in the end. I know Council Member Glasheen and I have talked about it. He's done this approach in some of his projects. We have started a short list of individuals that we would ask to submit their qualifications for such a role. We would be open to expanding that list to others. We'd like to visit with others in the community who may know of other individuals or firms that provide that type of service. In my mind, it would be similar to the type of arrangement that we have with Robert Dial, which is a monthly retainer type. We just have them on retainer as our building rep to help manage the project, to help us determine how we need to approach the site planning and help us just know what architectural firms are out there and do good work in this space, just kind of all components of the project. But I think to get that ball rolling, we would probably need to put the word out to try to get some folks in to see who would be qualified to serve in that role. I think doing it this way, as opposed to us just hiring the architectural firm and then having the architectural firm be the owner rep, I mean, that is one way to do it, but I think if we had a dedicated person that is our extension, I think that's going to probably be a better approach. But I'm happy that is my request, to have your permission and your authority granted to me to go out for that, and then we would bring back some proposals and basically kind of have a mini interview here with some different groups who might be able to provide that to us. Yes, ma'am.
In the one page, an action requested, it says to authorize staff to issue an RFP for a buyer rep / project
It
manager.
meant owner rep. Owner rep.
That made me wonder who was,
We're not buying anything yet.
okay.
Well, I'll comment on it since I've advocated for this, but, and I guess when you do RFQs, that means it's kind of not it's like other professional services where it's not a bid thing, but you're then negotiating a fee with them if
Right.
you can reach agreement, otherwise you move to the next one on your RFQ list. But I was gonna say that if you want somebody to look over, any of the pricing they give you and judge it, I know a guy that'll look at it for free
Yes,
And-
I'm all for free.
and tell you
Advice.
this is a good deal or a bad deal. But I was gonna also suggest that if you really liked working with Robert Dial and you feel like he's got the experience to do this level of project. I just don't know, because I don't know if his
I think
background's more in roadway.
He's
That's-
more of a flat work guy.
You need somebody with real commercial
Yeah.
building experience. But as far as like when you get them, I mean, I have found owner's rep, and I call him project manager, because we do put owner's rep on the construction side, and sometimes the project manager is the same thing as the owner's rep. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm using them interchangeably.
It's
I don't even know if
interchangeable.
that's,
It's fine.
I don't know what I don't know.
It's interchangeable, in my opinion, but I've found it extremely helpful in hiring architects, because, and I've called Alex and asked her about hiring architects, and expressed how hard it is to hire them, because you don't know what's really fair, and there's a huge range in fees from architects, and sometimes you might get one architect to do the design development and another one to do the construction drawings to save money, but then you've got to get them to phase their fee quotes, because you might not need the super fancy architect to do all the drawings on the project, but you might want the fancy one to come in and come up with the concept and the look of it. And sometimes you break it out that way, but I was never comfortable like knowing that what I was agreeing to was a good deal or a fair deal without my project manager telling me.
Right.
Even though I've done a bunch of projects, it's just frustrating. There's so many phases of the project where there's a few times I've not used project managers on projects, and I'm telling you, I've paid for it, and I've just not just in money, but in brain damage, I'll call it. It's just like even at these interior design meetings I had this week, on a follow-up meeting, I'm like, yeah, project manager can handle all of that, because I've looked at enough of this stuff, and he knows what we want and what we don't want, and he can take some of the, and he can negotiate the relationship between the architect and the interior designer, who are going to be fighting over control of the project, and he can tell you and he can help you with all the VE, the value engineering, that has to happen at every phase of the process, because you'll get these designs that you could make small changes and get 90% of the impact that you're looking for, but save 30-40% of the cost. So those are things that have to happen at every stage of the process, and a good project manager can recognize VE opportunities and save you money on those. And then even negotiating the contract with the GC. What's it going to be? Cost plus, you're going to fall into traps on change orders. They can help you with all of that. Because you got to have a good lawyer, but having somebody out there who's seen the actual real life pitfalls that happen in construction contracts, and can hand you the one that they've used on 5 other projects. It's just very, very helpful.
Yeah, that's where I am on it personally. I mean, I've built personal homes, I've built an office building, I've done those things, and that's all. And I've made it through serving that role when it's my money. But when it's our money, I would like some expertise, because it's one thing for me to make a $50,000 mistake, but it's another when I'm on the hook for all of you, and I would like someone else to help.
I'll add to that, having made those same mistakes as an individual, just on the road projects, working as a homeowner and as a representative, working with Robert Dial, just watching how that guy managed people actually doing the work was, I've watched him hold up those guys until the surface temperature of the asphalt was right to put the asphalt down.
Correct.
And those 20 dudes were not happy to be sitting around waiting, but that's what he got paid for, and he represented us well. So
Yeah.
I think having someone in that role for this project is definitely worth the price.
Yep. And that's a great, and that did happen, and that is a
That
great
absolutely happened.
that's a real world example. And that's the kind of thing too, even if myself or Alan, aside from the fact that we may not have the expertise to know when to do that, some of us won't be here every day to do that. So we need somebody with that type of expertise. So anyway, that's my pitch. I would like y'all's authority to put put something out for, not necessarily bid, but a request for qualifications to try to get a number of those types of resumes in for firms or individuals who maybe could serve in that role. So,
And that would come back here then
Yes.
for approval?
yeah, absolutely.
Move to grant you the authority to go out for
RFQ.
RFQ.
You have a request or a motion by Mr. McDuffie to grant the mayor authority to issue an RFQ for project manager / owner rep services. Is there a second?
Second.
You have a motion and a second by Ms. Hudson. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Being 5 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Thank you, council. We will get on that. And that's all I have on agenda item number 7. Moving on to agenda item number 8, discussion and possible action on the fiscal year 2026 paving projects. I will ask Alan to give us a recap of the work that has been completed.
Well, this project, or these projects, ties back to the money the council budgeted this year. There's an additional $500,000 set aside in the mayor's grant authority to issue requests for bids, sign contracts as necessary to improve the city's street infrastructure through paving projects. We worked with WSB engineers, Ms. Points and Ms. Brandon. Ms. Brandon's over here. The engineers there to have a very successful project. It went very quickly and very smoothly. We threw 5 different change orders at them. Some were big, some were fairly small. They all went very smoothly. So I know, Rollingwood's a small place, but I'll list the streets just for the sake of the record here. So we repaved or milled down and repaved Edgegrove, the entire length of Edgegrove Drive, Wallace Drive from Rollingwood Drive all the way through to the Hatley Drive intersection, and the Hatley Drive from Laurel Lane all the way down to its terminus at Vale, and Nixon Drive. We patched a couple of little sections there between Pleasant Cove and Hatley Drive that hadn't been repaved as part of the CIP project. There were a couple of gaps the council pointed out a few meetings ago where you didn't realize how bad the pavement was until it was juxtaposed by this brand new shiny pavement either side of it. So we rectified that. We also had a few, the change orders I said about. We had some limited curb replacement, some regrading. We did some concrete paving just right there at the intersection of Nixon and Hatley. And that was intended to keep the drainage that was on Hatley, so continue down to the creek rather than flow down Nixon and exacerbate a known drainage problem down there. We also had some additional stop bars painted in the CIP project. There weren't the stop lines weren't included in AO's scope, so they didn't paint the stop lines. We felt that was a safety issue, so we had that issue corrected, and those were painted there. The great thing is, the money was available per council's approval as of October the 1st. We issued the bid quite quickly. It was a really thorough and complete bid from WSB. The construction began December of 2025, and the final painting was finished in January of 2026. We've made the correction on our website. It said January 2025. We're not that good, but we did finish in less than 2 months and $71,949 under the budget that you'd authorized the mayor to expend. So it's on time and under budget, so it's not bad for a government project. And I believe that's all.
That was the punchline.
That was the punchline. I mean, I did include it in my cover sheet here. Paving activities are incredibly disruptive, and I've been in Rollingwood for a year and a month, and there's been a lot of public infrastructure projects. And so the residents here have been so kind, so gracious with us ruining their day-to-day lives. But hopefully now when you drive down those really smooth streets, it was all worth it, and we'll be a little bit quieter here for a while.
And the action that I would ask council to approve is what I would like to do. So WSB oversaw this for us. They put the bid package together for us as well. And if you'll recall, council, WSB is who put together the original pavement study report that prioritized these. And when we did these projects, as you recall, when you appropriated the dollars out of the budget to do this project, we sort of started at the top and started working our way down that list, which is what these streets that Alan mentioned where they came from. What I'd like to do now that we have done that is request WSB go back and amend that report and basically update it, right? So that going into next year, we're a month or two away from starting our budget cycle again. We will now be in a good position going into that next budget where we start continuing down that list. But instead of us having to go back and recreate and remember, I'd like to, while it's fresh on our mind and fresh on WSB's mind, have them go back into that original report and update it so that going into this budget season, we kind of know where we stand for this next phase, if that was okay. Yes, ma'am.
I like that. I think that's good to have WSB do that. My question is on the savings we have on this project. Is this project out of our street fund funds? So is that 72,000? Does it remain committed for street projects?
Yes. Yes and no. So in the last budget, we actually budgeted, so you have new dollars coming in specifically to the street fund at about 150,000, give or take, a year. You had an unexpended balance that had built up over the last decade or so of around 400,000, and we budgeted in this last budget from those dollar amounts. So yes, it was in the budget, but it came from that fund, and some of that fund was also the unexpended balance from years past. But yes, the answer to your question is yes, and those dollars stay earmarked.
Okay.
Yes. And
Well, I would move.
Go ahead.
Our agenda item says no action is requested, so I don't know that you need action to ask our contractor to update.
Either way, it's posted for action. If you're good with it, I will. There may be some cost to it, which is why I kind of wanted a motion. It'll be minimal at best, but
We have the agenda item, but then the action requested says none.
that's Alan's fault. That's not mine.
Well, I'm
I drafted all up. So.
Well, the posted agenda says action.
To make the motion.
If you don't mind making the motion.
Don't we already let you spend up to $5,000?
You do. But I just I'm trying to be transparent. So. I'll either way, if you're good.
I move we give the mayor authority to request that WSB update our project to show completion of the items that have been in Alan's report.
Great. You have a motion by Ms. Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
You have a motion by Ms. Brown, a second by Mr. Shell. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Being 5 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Thank you, council, and we'll get that updated and recirculate it for the next budget cycle. With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 9, discussion and possible action on installation of a valley gutter at the intersection of Bell Street and Bettis Boulevard and other water diversion structures. This is an agenda item that you're well aware of, council, that has come before council a number of times. Quick recap, if you recall, Lochner, previously known as K. Freeze, had given us some initial thoughts on how to fix that intersection. That issue came back before council, I believe last month, and maybe the month before that as well. Council's decision at that time was to also sort of push pause and with a blank slate ask WSB to take a fresh look at that intersection. In addition to that, you approved the expenditure of funds to shoot grades in the street at the curb, and I can attest, and we talked about it at length in our staff meeting, that we had them go above and beyond in terms of number of points that they shot grades on. That work was done and provided to WSB, at which point WSB took a look at the whole project in addition to with that data and put together a scope for us for our consideration. They put together a very comprehensive, I think based on the conversations that they had overheard here in council chambers. They put together a very comprehensive approach to looking at that entire intersection and what it would take for them to do all of the associated engineering to come up with a definitive solution for that intersection. So I'm not necessarily asking you for action tonight, but we are providing you the information that we got back from WSB in terms of what the cost would be for that overall comprehensively engineered solution. And I would say sleep on it for 30 days, think about it, see if that's something that you want to expend dollars to try to have engineered.
And that's just for engineering?
That is just for engineering.
What's the number?
45.
45,000.
It does include a number of bells and whistles.
Okay.
A lot of bells and whistles.
Oh, and we do have WSB here. Oh, I was like, I don't see her. We do have WSB here hiding in the corner if we want to ask her any questions.
Well, it'd be a shame if she came all the way in.
I know,
sat
it
through the whole
would.
meeting and didn't say something.
Come on up. Sorry, I missed you back there.
No, you're fine. I'm Selena Brando with WSB. We developed this proposal not only to include a drainage analysis, just to show exactly what the water is doing at that intersection currently, but also whatever solution that we design, which is currently discussed as a valley gutter and also a curb raise in front of the resident on the northeast corner of that intersection to kind of prevent some of the flooding at the front of their property. Mostly to show that any solution that we provide would not impact any other residents. So we wouldn't divert towards anybody else. So that's part of why we have this drainage analysis in there. And then also the final task on that is developing actual PS&E sheets that we could take to construction.
Okay, and we'd previously had a proposal for engineering services, or that already just kind of drawn a cheap version?
It was not as comprehensive as this approach.
And it was a proposal for services, but it hadn't been, they didn't engineer it yet. Or they
It
had
depends on your
engineered it.
definition of.
They had a solution already.
Engineers had taken a look at the grades that we had, not the full set of survey points that we have now, but they did engineer it, but it did not include everything that this proposal and this scope includes.
I'm gonna put you on the spot and ask you if that there is some middle ground between this proposal and kind of the original point. In other words, is everything in this proposal reasonable and necessary, or could we cut some of it and it still would be reasonable and cover what's necessary?
Yeah, I think we definitely could probably take a look at it, but the idea here is that to fully mitigate all of the drainage in that area, you would need to do probably storm drain with inlets. So we're trying to design something that's reasonable to be constructed at a lower cost. And so we're trying to cover our bases on the design side, that this is reasonable and makes sense and is a feasible solution that's not as expensive on the construction side as what would contain all of the flow in that area.
So through more design up front, you can come up with solutions that are more cost effective and more
Correct.
reasonable.
That's our intention.
And definitively ensure that there's no unintended consequences or
Bulletproof guaranteed.
impact. Correct.
Comes with a certified certificate of authenticity.
Not
There
gonna
will
get
be a
that
stamp.
from anybody.
A stamp, yeah, we're gonna stamp it with an embossed seal.
Certified by the state of Texas.
All right,
With public
well,
engineers.
that's good enough for me.
And you can confirm that the number of grades that we shot were above and beyond what you usually have access to.
Yes, we do have in there for survey just to include anything extending farther out. I know at the north side of that intersection, it definitely slopes backwards. And so there were a couple points that our survey team looked at and said that it would benefit the design if we went out and took
A few
some of
more.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, you know, I've raised a number of those questions. What I am hoping for is that if we have a proposed design for correcting the issues, that we can be assured that the result of that new design is not harmful to anyone else in that intersection. That's what I'm looking for. And when Kay Freeze addressed that, they could not tell us that to at least my satisfaction. They may know it, but they weren't
I think that's what you would be
are
paying.
able to be articulate.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's what you would be
Yes.
paying $45,000 for.
Well, and
But even still,
even still,
they're not gonna be able to guarantee that there are no circumstances under which
I
any
didn't ask for
design,
that, but I think
any
you,
design will not result in flooding, because you can't know how, I mean, we've just seen floods that nobody anticipated, right?
what I'm looking for is if 10 gallons of water goes down that intersection today, it goes somewhere. If 10 gallons of water goes down the new intersection, it's gonna go somewhere. Are we okay with that? You know, is it better than it was? That's what I'm looking for. And, you know, if we redesign the intersection, we don't wanna have the water that went in one neighbor's yard go in another neighbor's yard. That's all I'm looking for.
That's what I'm looking for as well. I'm not suggesting that you do or don't spend the money.
I'm
But-
surprised it's $45,000 to find that answer. Because this is not the you know, Kay
Right.
Freeze did an estimate of what it would cost to redo the streets. This is an estimate of an engineering proposal, and we don't have this is the design, this isn't the actual construction. So we have apples and oranges here.
You know, I
Okay.
think part of your design standards the first time around is to not go flooding neighbors. And so
Yes.
and I think they told us when they presented the original design that, you know, that was something they took into account. And then we were kind of pushing them to guarantee it for us. And I think that's what led us to this point, because engineers are
Well,
quite reluctant to guarantee anything.
What,
Let me just finish real quick, if you
Okay.
don't mind.
I just want to clarify what I asked for at that meeting.
Go ahead.
So, the other point I was gonna make was that I think that Sarah, of course, is stating the obvious, that nobody can guarantee that an engineering solution is gonna be completely bulletproof all the time. I mean, you can get a guarantee of that or insurance for it, but it's gonna be very costly. It might cost as much as $45,000. But, you know, if it's reasonably designed to start with, and we have a recommendation that it's reasonable from a qualified engineer, and we go forward with it, and then something goes wrong, and, you know, some water floods down somebody's driveway, well, then we have to revisit the design and do something different than we do. It's just, you know, we do our best efforts to be reasonable and follow expert advice and go forward, and if it doesn't work out, you know, we just fix it and do it, try again, you know. Anyway, that's my point.
And I have another question here. Are there design standards for an intersection with these kind of grades? You know, is that, if we can say that we have designed this intersection according to whatever appropriate street design criteria there are, I'm happy. I don't have to know exactly what the expected outcomes are at various flood events if there's a standard for that kind of design. I don't know that. And we couldn't get the information from Lochner. You know, what they said they were doing was designing the street as it should have been designed at the time it was built. But knowing that, that didn't tell me very much. You know, I don't know if that's today's standard. I don't know if it's not gonna result in flooding for another neighbor. That's what I want to ensure. Is we're not, whatever design we come up with, everybody's better off in that intersection.
That is also our goal.
I think that if we got a statement from the engineer, and I'd say even the original engineer, that just says simply, this has been designed to comply with reasonable engineering design standards. and with due consideration for the risk of flooding neighbors or aggravating other property owners' water flow situation. If we got them to just say that, to me, that would satisfy me that we've used reasonable care, they've used reasonable care, and, you know, that's all we can do.
Well, you know, we all work in a world where there's lots of design standards. Is there an acceptable design standard for this kind of
There
intersection?
are hundreds of standards that would apply to this situation.
I'm not sure
Unfortunately,
of that.
well, I mean, I
Yeah.
cross-examine engineers all the time
Anyway.
on this stuff, but you tell us.
Yeah, I guess I'll just, for clarification in there, before we get to designing the PSNE sheets, we have a drainage memo associated with it. So when we do the drainage analysis, we'll do it based on standard design storms. So I can't remember off the top of my head which ones they were, but up to the 100-year is, I'm assuming, is what we're designing for. So we would provide you with that memo that says, this is what's existing, this is what we're proposing, this is what changes would be made. And then if that's not, if the outcome of that is not necessarily what we're happy enough with, then that's where we'd have the discussion on what that design change would be. So it's not saying, I guess I'm just trying to clarify that we're not saying that this is our only solution, this is what we're doing. That's just the only thing we're modeling. We're modeling this solution that we think will provide a benefit to that intersection, and then we can have that discussion after we've done the drainage analysis of what the solution looks like, and if we want to move forward with that.
And you're modeling it both before and after.
Correct.
Correct. And that's the puzzle piece that was not previously
Yes,
contemplated.
yes.
And that's the
Which
puzzle.
piece wasn't?
The running all the models through, doing the H&H study.
Correct.
That's what wasn't done, and that's what cost $45,000. Do it, don't do it, it's your call. But that's what
Do you have an
that's
opinion?
what you're paying for.
You've dealt with this. Do you have an opinion?
Yeah, I think if you're gonna do it, you just do this and then lock it all up and be done with it.
Okay.
Or don't do it.
Yeah, with that
I
said,
mean, we tried the other option, and I think that the end solution is going to be roughly the same, but you're not going to have the same belt and suspenders that you had before. Like, I think the end solution is going to essentially be the same design, but you will not have all of the backup documentation to make sure that that you can prove that it was designed correctly.
That's a lot of money for.
It is. Then don't do it.
CYA.
Yeah, for CYA,
Right,
thank
right,
you.
right.
And I don't know any, I mean, I know government does that stuff all the time, but I don't know any private business that would spend that kind of money for that kind of CYA, because if somebody's gonna be unhappy and complain about it, they're gonna be unhappy and gonna complain. And if there's not a problem, there's not a problem, you know, but, I mean, my only question is if it was reasonable what was proposed originally from a civil engineering reasonable standards of what you'd expect, standard of care from a reasonable civil engineer, then it's okay with me. I mean, this isn't just it wasn't just something us and the concrete guy came up with out on location, you know, eyeballing the grades. I mean, you have an engineer giving you a solution. I'm okay with that, and I just hate the idea of spending $45,000 of taxpayer money for nothing but CYA. I'd rather spend that on lawyers. No. Come on, lawyers need to eat too.
They eat very well.
Okay, so you have it in front of you. Kevin, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
just, when we did this for the Nixon Pleasant, we did a big study to make sure that we produced we measured everything, what are going to be the side effects of it, what's the right solution, blah, blah, blah. And Mayor, do you remember, I mean, that price tag was, I think, twice what this number is.
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, it was a larger area, but
But that's what I'm kind of getting at, because that area is much bigger, more complicated, more moving parts. And the solution was much more complicated than what this is gonna probably end up being.
correct.
So I'm just struggling a little bit
But
with,
the comparison is the Valley Getter that's over there on Hadley,
right.
which didn't have all of that.
I understand, but what I'm
So-
getting at is, but for what we're getting, in your opinion, for what we would get from
Well,
ignore the conversation we just had, the legal part of it.
what I understand, we're doing more than the valley gutter. We're also replaning Bettis as it crosses Vale. That is my
That would
understanding.
probably, if you'll recall, the cave-free solutions there were two different solutions. There was one that was the
One was the valley gutter.
the
one was-
more affordable version, which was basically filling in the hole, putting the valley gutter, and keeping it all in
Right.
one section. The other solution is what you're suggesting, which was a total rework of the whole intersection to take out the odd crown that comes out into the middle of the intersection. And I would assume that we could probably give them some direction on which is the preferred option for us. I will say, though, to her earlier comment about trying to come up with an affordable design solution, my guess is they will come up with two design solutions. One will be very similar to what K-Freeze originally proposed, and the other is to rework the entire intersection. One will probably cost $250,000, and one will probably cost 50 or 90.
Well, if I could
I'm sorry.
finish this
I'm sorry. Yes,
interchange
I
first.
got confused.
Yes, and that's what caused the concern in my mind, is we didn't know the outcome of either of those two solutions. And I wasn't able to make a decision on which was the best solution or the right solution, or did it fix the problem, because the firm that did those two proposals couldn't tell us that. They weren't ready to make a recommendation to us as to what would be the appropriate solution. That's why I'm asking, is there if Bettis is incorrectly planed, that's not the right word, but
I know what you mean.
if the crown is incorrect, do we fix it? Can we avoid a flooding issue if we don't? You know, that's what I need the information on. I just wanna know the information, the engineering to get to the right solution.
I will say also this: if you were to spend the dollars to do this type of full-blown analysis, it has shelf life. That intersection is not going anywhere. No one's going to come replane it on their own, and no one's going to fill in the hole or raise the curb.
And the homes that are uphill are gonna get bigger.
And so,
We all know that.
so even if you spent the money now but didn't have, or if we decided we didn't have the dollars to allocate or appropriate for the final actual work, you could still do that a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. We've been talking about this hole in this street since 2016, so it's not going anywhere. You can also spend the dollars on the engineering study and then have it for when we do have the dollars.
Well, we have a neighbor whose home is getting flooded. We need to fix that.
I agree.
Yeah.
If I could add, I would just say, I think our intention behind this design is not just a valley gutter, there would be regrading of the street as part of the design. We don't view those as two separate, it's one comprehensive solution to the current issue.
Until it cost $250,000, and then we ask you to give us another solution.
We will do
But
everything
yes.
in our power to minimize that.
Well, that's where I was going with this question, is in this bid, there's, I think it's, there's $19,000 of design work after you've done the study. Am I reading that correctly?
Correct. Those are all the sheets.
So is there value from just doing that?
That's the
study part
yeah.
versus the design? 'Cause the design, if the study just says do the design, we already got.
So I would assume that's bid package.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and obviously we wouldn't have the bid package put together until it came back before council anyway to decide what you
I
want.
bet you for $2,500, another engineer would say that the first design was reasonable. And then you'd have two engineers saying that.
Possible. Come on up. All right.
Which one?
Any other questions for WSB? All right,
Thank you for
great.
being here.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
We'll take
Recognize Alex.
Alex Robinette. Just a quick thing to throw into this conversation is that I've been hearing that the speed, even though the street is gorgeous now that it's been repaved, it has promoted excess speeding down that street because it's kind of a cut-through street. So maybe while you're thinking about this, is there a solution that could help slow traffic? Like right now, I think that hump actually helps a little bit. So,
Ironically, it
just
is.
something to think about while you're looking at all
A
that.
valley gutter would do that,
Actually, true, that, yeah.
would
But good point.
would,
We-
would reduce.
Yeah.
There was one near my neighborhood in Houston.
Always slow
That-
down.
Boom. They hit it.
Yeah, well, you had to slow down. I mean, it's like a speed hump only in reverse, right?
Yeah.
You have to slow down.
We just fixed one of those.
So-
on Dixon.
Yes, we did.
So has there been, since we had talked about this last time, has Lochner come back with anything on following up to this, that, based on that conversation that we had and the feedback that was given by council?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were off. Go ahead.
No, but I did share the survey that was produced that we had sent to WSB after we surveyed the streets in the different directions to see if that would change their opinion, and it didn't change their opinion. They were okay with how they'd drawn it. I mean, and realistically, aside from the engineering need for more data, I mean, I think we've all stood on the intersection and you can see exactly what the water does. You can see exactly where the water puddles. I don't think you need the survey for that. You just need the survey for a detailed engineering analysis. But I think it's very clear what the problem is. Maybe the solution might be less clear.
Right. Well, I want to just quote the mayor before he was the mayor and remind everyone that it will rain again. And when it does, this issue is going to come roaring back. So I would like to see us move faster, as fast as we can, towards whatever solution we need to do. And it sounds like we got information from 2 engineering firms, and we got information from a bunch of legal experts up here. So what do we need to get moving on this?
We need motions, right?
If you want to take action on this WSB proposal, you just make the motion and.
Is that the only thing posted? Could we make a motion under the posting to authorize us to go and execute the original design with the contractor?
It's posted broadly, so you can do
That'd be my motion.
any number of things.
We go back and we adopt the original, formerly known as K-Freeze design, is that right?
There were 2 of them.
Well, the cheaper solution is the one I'm in favor of. And then, authorize the
That would be
city
the
to go
valley
out
gutter.
and get a bid or get a contract on that. Yeah, the valley gutter. I would like to move forward with the valley gutter project.
And no work on Bettis.
And I qualify that by saying I make the motion, but I wanna hear from the mayor and our city administrator, Alan, as well, on if they think that's a reasonable solution.
If I can forward all emails to you, I do. But, I don't think everyone will think that that's a reasonable solution, but I am at your.
Well, I
We will
would also
execute.
suggest-
We'll execute whatever. I tried to execute the other version, and that's how we got here. So I
would-
brought you this. It's y'all's call.
I would say that I would also invite, or if K-Freeze is willing to do it, if there are any concerned neighbors who have their own engineers that wanna meet with our engineer before we move forward and share any, thoughtful analysis of the situation, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But, other than giving people that opportunity, I just don't see why, in the absence of some controverting opinion from an engineer, I don't see why we wouldn't move forward. But I'm still kind of waiting on your bottom line.
I've already told you. I think that you should go with this WSB.
Okay.
But you do whatever you want to do.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I know, Alan, you said you talked with Lochner about the engineering or the sites or the points, or I'm not sure what the correct term is, the work that WSB has done. Can Lochner tell us that if they do the valley gutter, that will improve the outcome for the home that's currently flooding? Can they tell us that? Can they tell us it won't hurt the house across the street
Not-
if we do that.
Not to the level that you want to see it, because they did not do an H&H study. They did not do the
What is
study.
H&H?
Hydrology and hydraulics study.
So,
When they say model it, that's what they're talking about. So they didn't model it. They
but,
just,
and what is the standard of care for a street engineer in a project of this type? There's gotta be one. If
It's
we can meet,
reasonable.
if we
That's the
can meet the
standard.
standard of care for the engineering for a street of this type, I'm good with it. But I need an engineer to tell me that.
The word is reasonable, and that's the standard. It has to be done to reasonable engineering standards. In other words, you have to rely on them to use their professional judgment, given all the facts and circumstances and all the standards that they're aware of. And if they say that this is a reasonable level of design for this particular project, then that's what the standard is. And you know, but I will say that even though I would do what I tried to make a motion of, which is if it was me and I was just,
and be clear,
I
I did try that.
I agree.
When
I know
we
you-
had
with-
contractors
with council, right?
paving.
Well,
So-
but
We tried here is what you're
what
referring
Kay
to.
Freeze said was that they couldn't, we designed it as the way the street should have been designed. That was all they were able to say. Originally, when it was first designed, they would take it back to that design. And I said, well, what does that do in terms of the flow of water? And they couldn't tell us that.
Correct.
I want to support the mayor and the city administrator in the way they want to handle it, even though I might handle it differently. You're the ones handling it and having to deal with it, and I respect that and appreciate it. So if you guys want to do it that way, I would make a motion that we move forward with the WSB proposal that's up for consideration tonight at your request.
I mean, go ahead, Kevin.
Just have a quick question. We did the extra survey work after the last conversation with Lochner for a reason. What is Lochner doing with that data?
They
Come back and give us these answers or give us some answers, and we spent money to do that. I'm okay with where Kevin's going with this, but I'm also like, we did extra work to do something. Why aren't our engineers giving us an answer with that?
We can go back to Lochner.
Did we ask them to do something with it?
Well,
We
that's
spent money to do something. What happened?
you're comparing apples and oranges here, folks. They drew basically what Kevin just described, a reasonable solution that did not include all of the additional bells and whistles and research and data and hydraulics and modeling and all of that. We can go back to Lochner and say, if we wanted the Cadillac version, how much would that cost? And they will probably give us a number very close to what WSB has given us. I don't know that because we haven't asked them for it. But if we ask them for the full mill deal, that's probably what they would do. Otherwise, they have already looked at the data, the survey points that we sent them, and they've basically looked at it and said, yeah, that's what we drew.
Okay.
But not to the level of certainty that Councilwoman Brown has.
I'm being attributed with something I didn't do.
I'm agreeing with you.
Well, what I'm saying is, the standard I want is not certainty, and it's not that this isn't ever gonna flood. But Kay Freeze gave us 2 design proposals, and I said, my question was, which one's better? And they wouldn't tell us. And I said, can you tell us what the difference in the flows of water would be under this one versus that one?
And they
couldn't
can't.
tell us that.
And they still will not be able to.
And there was $80,000 difference in the 2 proposals.
Right.
I can't make a decision on that basis.
Right. Which is why you should probably vote for the WSB proposal, because it's going to give you all of those data points, in my opinion.
So
what I was trying to find the proposals to see what the cost was for the Valley Gutter.
For the Valley Gutter, that was
Yeah.
the 40,000.
So we have.
I think it was 90, actually.
I think it was 90.
It was 90, but
Was it that much?
The Valley Gutter, I thought there was one at
there was one at 90 and one at 200, I believe.
One
it
at
was
90 and 200, okay. I
Yeah, and my recollection of it from quite a while ago now was based on, to Councilmember Glasheen's point, Lochner's position was this is just a reasonable engineering. You know, they've been trained in it, they've been certified in it, licensed in it. They believe either one of them are reasonable. One was more elegant. The $200,000 one was more elegant. The $95,000 Valley Gutter would have worked to do what we needed, but without the modeling, that's I think why AB kind of shied away when you were questioning him last time. He said, well, without the modeling, I don't think he could stand behind it. And so when I met out on scene on the site with WSB and their engineers, I said the same thing I did to Lochner of, here's what the issue is. We need to make sure we absolutely don't put it onto the other side of Bettis. We want to solve one problem, not move the problem.
Or create another one.
And so to use the mayor's term, I think, yes, then you have the belt and suspenders, $45,000. This is really a button-down solution that they believe is reasonable from an engineering standpoint. But
And instead of certainties, I think all you can expect to get and what the legal standard is reasonable probability. That's what you're looking for. So the question is, in reasonable probability, is this not going to adversely affect the neighbors? And that's the answer. And I will point out also that I think they were pretty clear that the problem that we're trying to avoid is actually caused by the neighbor's house driveway being cut too low, and it should have a little bit of a hump in it to prevent water from flowing down the driveway. And that was their recommendation for how to mitigate any issue here, which seems reasonable. And I wouldn't even mind us offering to do that for the homeowner in connection with the Valley Gutter. We're out there doing the work. Let us, re-pour your driveway for you, or pay for you to have it re-poured.
We're familiar with
Oh,
with that type of solution.
Okay.
I
mean, it's.
I've got a compromise proposal for you. What if, so 19,000 of this WSB scope of work is for the bid package discussion. Why don't you just approve that portion of the WSB scope of work? Let's take a look at that, and then you can decide if we want to pay the other 19 to do the bid.
That's really the construct, the other
That's
19
really,
is the
that's
construction document.
that's construction documents, that's bid package, that's all of that piece of it, if we move to the next phase.
But if they agree that a valley gutter is sufficient based on data, they don't need it won't cost 19,000 to design a valley gutter. I'm just saying, I don't think, maybe it will, I don't know.
That was where I was going earlier, so I love the compromise.
Okay.
I move that we do that.
I move we approve a proposal, the proposal from WSB to do task 1, 2, 3, and 4 of their proposal for whatever that number was.
26,000.
I think it's 26,000.
26,000.
Is that correct? Okay. You have a motion by Ms. Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Brown, a second by Mr. Shell. Is there further discussion?
Do we have budget?
We do, because we saved $70,000 in the previous agenda item, so.
Yes, and it's a street,
And it is a
We
street.
can spend it on this.
Yes, correct. That's the other reason
Part of
we put that update on here, but I wanted you to come to that conclusion. I didn't want to point it out to you. So, yes, we do have the budget.
Just wanted to make sure that was clear.
And that,
We
and
have-
the, and
we have
to
budget.
be clear, those are the dollars that we will spend to do it.
Okay.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Being 5 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Thank you, council.
Quick question, what's the time frame that we would start, do?
They have quickly. We'll get,
Get an update, that's fine.
yeah, we'll get the agreement drafted up here shortly.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll move on to, yes, ma'am. Moving on to agenda item number 10, discussion, update, and possible action on the east driveway entrance improvements and parking area improvements in Rollingwood Park. Mainly put this on this evening as a placeholder for when we did budget, and you guys had not met yet, so come on up and I will recognize Ms. Morrow.
All right, Melissa Morrow, 2502 Timberline Drive, and Parks Commission Chair. We did not talk very much at our current meeting because we already feel really good about this. I do have Kurt Arnett, our landscape designer, who's on, and I if we want, we can unmute him and let him speak. Kurt and I did meet with Robert Dial as a potential project manager, owner, rep on the city's behalf. He was very helpful and gave us some great advice on estimating. Some of that is in your packet already. And I want to give Kurt an opportunity to share some of those costs. I keep saying I'm going to let him speak, but one of the things that's also in your packet is in the city administrator's report, includes the most recent 3 designs that the landscape architect has completed on the off-leash areas. I know that it is not on the agenda to discuss tonight, but after talking with Robert, he believes that we would have a significant cost savings by doing both projects at once. And if Robert also advised that because of the location of the various off-leash areas options, we should not complete the parking lot before deciding about the off-leash area, because we would be basically driving equipment and things over the brand new done parking lot. So anyway, let's start with Kurt. He can share a little bit about the cost estimates that Robert went through.
Kurt, you're recognized. Thanks for being here. Sorry, didn't see you on there earlier, but thanks for sticking with us if you are there.
Says he's there.
I think you're unmuted, so if you have a
Voice.
If he's in front of his computer.
Yeah, he may be
Computer may
grabbing.
be on,
He
but
may be
may
having
not be
dinner
there.
by now.
Maybe doing something to eat.
I did just text him a minute ago
Okay.
and said, thanks for hanging in there.
Did he answer?
let me just-
He was also texting me, said he was hoping not to speak.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's okay. We can
Okay.
build a conversation.
So
Yeah.
one thing that I do want to add, so that you do have some of the dollar amounts that are in there. One of the things that Kurt did share with me today that came from Texas Eco Pavers was a cost estimate, and again, it didn't make it in the packet because it just came today. That was a little bit more than I think we had originally been thinking it would be. It came in at $174,400 just for the Eco Paver part. Kurt, will you remind me about like the square foot cost, if you can, and if you can speak?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Oh, great.
Sorry, Kurt. Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay. So I was trying to kind of compare, like cost of asphalt and the cost of this True Grid, and then make sure that we're comparing, apples to apples. And so I took, the bid, the True Grid bid, doesn't include excavation, and it doesn't include concrete. What it does include is the base material, and Robert had recommended going with an 8-inch thick base material, to support larger vehicles. So it includes the base, it includes the True Grid material, and then the top layer of the more decorative type gravel. And so from my cost, from the square footage, it came up to be about $9.15 a square foot for the True Grid. And I also have pricing on the concrete and the excavation, the haul off, estimates on that as well.
Tell us about that.
Can you share that?
Yes. Do you want it broken down individually?
Sure.
Okay, so the concrete flat work, which includes, the paving, everything except for the curb. So the entry approach, the handicapped parking area, that was $24,000. They priced that by square yard, and it was 240 square yards.
And is that for the same area that you just mentioned with the quote for the rock? This is the concrete in addition to the rock if it was done that way? I got you. Okay. And how much was the rock? Because I didn't write that down. The paver system.
174,
Thank you.
is that right?
Yeah, that's.
For
what-
the-
Yes.
Yeah.
For the rock, what
It's
is
a-
the
it-
rock?
For the,
It's a
gravel
gravel
and the
paver
For the
grid,
true grid.
the true
True
grid.
grid,
Yep.
yes.
Okay.
Filled with rock. Includes the rock.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm sorry. to
So
interrupt
what
you.
I'm telling you now is going to be the same, no matter what type of paving we end up going with,
Mhm.
because we're going to have the same concrete and the same excavation and haul off.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
So,
I'm lost.
Just wait, let's let him share it, and then maybe we can clarify.
Okay, so we have the concrete flatwork, then we have the concrete curb, and that is $35 a linear foot. That comes to be 37,625.
What is the fur?
So the things that he's sharing right now, regardless of if we do true grid or concrete, these are the cost either way.
Or asphalt.
But I'm just
true grid or
wondering, what
asphalt.
is it?
What do you mean?
What is the concrete fur?
Curb.
Oh, curb. So there's concrete for the apron of the entrance driveway and the handicapped area, and then there's the concrete curb.
Along the edge.
Yeah. All right, Kurt, keep going.
Oh, okay, and then for excavation, I averaged 14-inch depth below the existing grade. And that's because you have to go down 6 inches on the high side to create your curb. And then below that, you have 8 inches below that for the base material, whether it's road base or gravel. And that came up to be 750 cubic yards. And let's see. So that was 26,250. It's $35 a cubic yard. That's to excavate and haul off.
And you'd still have excavation, whether it was asphalt, concrete, or anything else, because of the grades that you're going for, the finished grades.
Yes,
Okay.
it has the same profile. It's just different materials that you're putting back in.
Got it.
So
Can I ask
we
a
just
quick-
looked at
Can I
the.
ask a quick question? On the paver, that 174,000, how many square feet or square yards does that area cover? And I know it'll be the same for concrete or for asphalt too, but I just trying
Yes.
to get the number of that.
It's 17,400 square feet.
Okay, thank you. And I'll call that the parking area. It kind of excludes the handicapped and the apron coming in and the curbs.
Yes.
And then you've probably got concrete and asphalt numbers for us for that 17,400 square feet too, right?
Yes. The concrete's the same. Robert recommended the 8-inch with the road base thickness there
Okay.
instead of 6-inch. And he also, but I have a price for the 6-inch as well. And he also recommended 2-inch thickness of asphalt instead of 1.5 inches.
Okay.
And so for the 8-inch road base, that's 35,600. And for the 2-inch asphalt, that's 25,100.
And, okay. And would you still have the same road base for asphalt or concrete?
Well, we just figured concrete for the curbs and the approaches, so those would be the same for either scheme.
I'm excluding curbs and approaches and aprons. I'm just saying for the 17,400 square foot parking area, we've got a price for it for pavers at 774, and then you said road base was 85,000, but would the road base be the road base would be necessary of 80 inches of road base before you put your 6 inches of concrete down or your 2 inches of asphalt. Either way, you're going to still want the same 8 inches of road base. Is that correct? That's my question.
We didn't price concrete for the main parking area.
Oh, okay.
We just priced road base with a 2-inch asphalt topping.
I see. And so the road base is 85 and the 2-inch asphalt is 25.
The road base is 36.
Yes. The
No, 80. How much is the
So are
road
you
base?
saying add the 35,600 to the 25,100?
It's 30.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's 60,700.
For asphalt
That's right.
versus 174,000 for the grid pay, whatever they call that. What do you call that? Grid lock?
Yeah, the true grid.
True grid, okay.
Is that not what you think?
We don't have it either.
We'll write it up. We'll
Yeah.
write it up and circulate it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can give you all these numbers.
Yeah, we should.
Really, we can't take action
I feel like we're wasting
on
time.
approving it, right, because we don't
Yeah.
have anything, have not had the
Right.
opportunity to look at any of this.
This
so.
is literally, this afternoon is when we found out from
No,
True Grid.
I
And what-
I understand, we're getting into the weeds here and like, we don't
Yes.
have anything to look at, so.
So, but I think the important part, and Kurt was very surprised by it, was how significantly more. Because in your packet, it basically gave a range of like 200,000 for the True Grid, and it gave 150 to 180 for the asphalt. And I think what we discovered today was that it looks like, at least with the current projections, that the difference is 60,000 to 174,000. So True Grid, we'd have to really, so far, the Parks Commission has been very much in favor of the True Grid for a variety of reasons, reducing heat, but also because just listening to the most recent hydrology estimate of what a study would be, is the True Grid would not have a significant impact on water moving through or flooding with the new tennis courts, et cetera, back into our behind neighbors. Whereas the asphalt may trigger, even though it's less expensive, it may trigger a different, if $45,000 is what you have to do for that, I don't know how that relates to this space of doing a hydrology. So the True Grid had, at least seemed to us, a better record of how much it can tell you just in its design phase how much water a 100-year flood, basically it's designed to hold that amount and have it seep down below, kind of like a French drain. So again, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a landscape architect, but from what I'm understanding is those are sort of the cost differences. So while we don't want to waste any more of your time, we do want to kind of get it. If what I'm hearing from you then, Kurt, also is you're looking at 174 plus, I'm just going to round it up to 90,000, because those were the costs that were going to be the same regardless of if you did asphalt or the other. And you're basically looking at a number that's closer to, doing 264,000, which actually is closer to what I suggested in the beginning, which was this is probably going to cost us about $250,000 to do the parking lot.
We'll follow up on the numbers. I really appreciate the data. It's very helpful to me, and I'll study it, and we'll talk about it next month too, because we're going to ask that all of this, including the other items in the agenda that you're going to mention, I'm sure these 3 designs, we're going to ask council or Parks Commission yesterday, and I don't want to steal your thunder on this, but Parks Commission yesterday voted to kick that stuff up to council, and so we're getting some of these designs. Kurt's going to update them. We'll get updated designs based on yesterday's Park Commission feedback, and then we want to put on the April agenda to start discussing selecting which design alternative we're going to have and invite the public to come in April meeting to start commenting and getting public input on it. And then I think maybe we might be able to vote on a design in May or it might go to June, but that way we'd be on track to start construction in the fall, which coincides with baseball. And there's a lot to be done between now and then, but we want to start next month, and I want to say how much I appreciate the Parks Commission's work and Kevin Shell's work, but especially Melissa Morrow's work on running a very inclusive, well-organized, efficient, and respectful and courteous and inclusive process. And I just want to thank you for that, because I think you just did a remarkable job of that. So anyway, thanks.
So,
Can we also get estimates of lifespan?
Yes.
We asked
Yep.
for that.
And, yeah, the maintenance, ongoing maintenance and expected,
Yep.
Life cycle, because if the True Grid lasts for 20 years and the asphalt lasts for, 5,
And we're,
there's a big difference in ongoing costs.
I have a request to make to hopefully.
Get acknowledgement from the mayor.
Go ahead.
Mayor, can I speak, please?
You're recognized.
Would you give me a time limit, sir? I'd like to see this more formally written up, both of these two plans with all these numbers presented at the next park commission meeting. You can decide to not deliberate on it much if your group doesn't want to, but Kevin and I will both participate in that. We can have this discussion and dial it in, because I think, myself included, there's just too many numbers floating around
Yeah.
here to go figure this out. I agree with having the big number is kind of what's the lifespan of that material to
Yep.
qualify when we're gonna have to go back and go do that. So I appreciate all the work that was put together. It's just too hard with getting all this thrown at us tonight without it being in the packet, not being prepared. And I do appreciate Kevin, and I agree, let's keep things moving. It's just, we're not gonna get there tonight, but if we can do that in the park commission, then everybody can see it, and I think it can come back in April to us to make a thing. So with that said, I would ask the council to provide any other questions they'd like to see presented on this
Yeah,
topic
we're gonna
at
have
the
to
next
get
park
concrete.
commission member.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
We've gone through the paving project and identified two options, basically, and we're now at the point of, I think at last month's meeting, we asked for the staff to bring back, cost estimates for each project, whether it's, asphalt or True Grid. So, the question I have now, and I can understand that we need to, it's probably better to wait and not do the parking up front if we're gonna proceed with the other changes for the ball fields and the off-leash area. So the question is, as we go toward finalizing those plans and getting to a bidding situation, do we want to ask our Robert and Kurt to draft up an RFP for the parking lot bids? Or do we need to get to the point of having the other parts of the project as well and do an RFP for the whole project? And ask those who were, that's my question. Does it make sense to go forward and ask for RFPs for the parking area now? Or does it make sense to wait on that till we have the other parts of the project? And I'd just like your opinion on that.
Well, from what I gathered from Robert, and I said at the beginning of the meeting, he said you're going to have cost savings by doing both projects together.
Both projects being what?
Being an off-leash area, because all of the designs of the off-leash area, this is if we decide to do an off-leash area, all three designs of the off-leash area work with the design of the parking lot. So the parking lot design is not, it may change by a few feet, and Kurt, correct me if I'm wrong, in a few critical areas.
Yes, I understand that.
Yeah. But basically, the construction, Kurt could do construction documents and we could put out an RFP. The thing is if you put out an RFP for just that, you could get people to make bids on it, but then you're gonna still go get an RFP that includes either just the off-leash area or both areas. And those bids, I believe, would be affected by, there's cost savings to be had by one-time mobilization of, for instance, the digging underneath, the excavation piece. So, and obviously disruption and everything else. So,
And
yep.
the bids have an expiration
life,
date
right.
They do.
too, right, so.
Okay.
And also, you know, how excited people get to come and bid for you if you're going to ask them, if you already know that you're likely to do a project right next to it, that it would change the costs. Now, I'm not trying to slow that down at all. I do feel like we've made some real progress in the community, having a more consensus idea of, yes, that we all want to separate those areas, and that we're getting close to a size that everyone feels good about. So I would hate for us to jump. I mean, I feel like we're within a month or two of making a decision. Now, I'm just going to throw this out as a political thing. I personally don't like not you personally, I don't like it when council does these kinds of discussions and whatever in the middle of the summer or over Christmas break. And so I would hope that maybe we could really push people to try to make a decision in April or May, and maybe a little bit of June. But you get to July and August, and people are just there. It's 110 degrees outside. If they can leave the state of Texas, they're leaving it. So
And we run out of time to get the deal done in September if we're gonna
Yeah.
wait until August. You can't do
So
it.
anyway, that's kind of my opinion, and I think we're close, and that we could do both and have some good cost estimates. I didn't talk to him for very long, but Rob seemed like a really great person, very knowledgeable. Again, though, I always say, he's just giving us estimates, and that's what Kurt used, and that's the best estimates we have. A true RFP is going to tell you really what it's going to cost.
Well, and it's gonna fluctuate a lot with the price of oil and diesel fuel, so, you're probably better off waiting a couple months to bid it, because right now, those costs have gone way up.
Let's hope.
I said maybe,
Okay.
okay, maybe,
All right.
maybe be better off.
One way
Okay.
or the other.
I know Alex
Yeah, one way or the other, it's gonna be different.
Alex would
Hello.
like to speak about the process a little bit.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Melissa. Alex, come on up.
Hey, Alex Robinette. Several things. I think it's great that you've got Robert, and I don't want to go against any of his recommendations, but I will say that when we were looking at the parking lot, we were always including that north lot as part of this whole thing, that the whole thing would be excavated at the same time. And even a year ago, we got estimates on what is it if we don't do parking there, but we still want to use that as green space. What's the cost of excavating, sod, soil? So we got little separate bids just to know what we were talking about. I kind of disagree that you should do the whole thing together as a cost savings. And again, I don't want to go against Robert because I think he's got a lot of experience, but just from my perspective of being involved in this for a long time, I still think you can do the parking lot, and I still think you could prep that north area as you were always planning to do. It frees you from having to commit to the dog layout at this stage. I still think that can be done separately. I think you should get the parking lot done this summer, like soon. And I also think that breaking it up will save you money because you're going to pay somebody overhead to manage all these subs. And I'd like to think that we could get some of our preferred subs that we've worked with that have done really good work and make sure we're managing that. And I think that when we do that, that's a cost savings because there's a lot of boulder work that needs to happen by the concrete apron that is actually retaining. Are we going to pay somebody else to build the trail? Are we going to pay somebody else to put in the fencing? What about, I think we were always talking about new sod and irrigation. That was a separate project that was happening in tandem with the parking lot. And I kind of put it's a fence. Wherever the dogs go, it's a fence. And so it's the same irrigation, sod, soil restoration project. And so from my perspective, cost, time, efficiency, do the parking lot, do the full excavation, prep that north area. You could even start using it for dogs, like move some fencing, and then you're not holding up games and things like that. Like I think that there's more efficient ways to do this that still saves you money. I think that's the gist of it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, any other comments on this placeholder?
Remind me what the Little League schedule is. When do they play through what date in the summer?
So I believe they're on the schedule. They're done like. Yeah, mid-May.
Mid-May.
Yeah.
And
And
they have fall ball.
and
too,
then they
right?
have fall ball that starts like late September, basically. They don't start at the very beginning of the year like the other sports. They start like September 15th or
They
later.
don't do all-stars, do they? At that
So
age?
that age does not do all stars. They do almost all their all stars down on Cesar Chavez over at Weah.
Okay.
So,
I mean, if we could do something by our May council meeting, I still think we could get the parking lot done by September.
well, and just for comparison, the fall ball has a much smaller number of kids who do it. So in terms of flexibility, they have a little more flexibility to move some of those games somewhere else. If they were going to end up with something where I think they would be comfortable saying, and I don't want to speak for Western Hills Little League, but if they got a good parking lot, if they had an area, a separate off-leash area, so they never have to worry about dogs being on there again, I think that.
And a new sprinkler system.
And a
which
new
could be
sprinkler
in for that
system
season.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're off of the driveway a little bit. so.
Okay.
Well,
so yeah.
What's the driveway
Back-
lead to?
Back to that.
I would like to get to my son's senior party before it ends. So.
While he's still in school.
Sure, come on.
I won't keep you. Really, I don't have a dog in this fight, but I don't. I have a grand dog, but anyway, I don't have a dog. I want to throw this out so y'all don't ignore that. If you try to do one project other than doing both and having cost benefit analysis, what do you call it? Just do everything at one time.
God save us.
There is another aspect. People then know for sure that yes, we are going to get that off-leash area. Yes, we are going to get the parking. I just worry that if you do the parking first, you're, other than also going over all that, what do you call it, the pavers and stuff, to go back there to do something, it has this indefinite thing there. I worry, even though I don't have a dog in this, I truly worry that will get sidelined and it'll cause more angst among the people who have gotten used to using that area, which is not just about dogs running around, it's also about the community building that goes on. So my thought is have the full project designed and signed before you do one or the other, first or the second, okay? That's just my thought, sitting here and listening to all of
Thank you.
The only other thing that I'll remind you guys about is RCDC did ask us when we brought the parking lot area to them to consider a bigger plan for more area. So that was one of the reasons that Parks went back and started looking at the off-leash area.
Perfect. All right, good. Thank you. All right, moving off of agenda item number 10 on to agenda item number 11. Discussion and possible action regarding an appointment to fill a vacant position on the Rollingwood Planning and Zoning Commission. Recognize Ms. Brown for her agenda item.
I would move to appoint Patricia Barnes to the vacancy in the Planning and Zoning Commission. I've talked with Ms. Barnes, and she is ready and willing and able to undertake this role. She would, she understands she'd have to resign her position as a alternate on Board of Adjustment, but that's fine with her.
All right.
I think she'd be a good member, and she comes recommended by 2 other members of Planning and Zoning and the approval of the chair.
All right, that's a motion by Ms. Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Brown, a second by Mr. Shell. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Being 5 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Thank you, council. Moving on to 12, discussion and possible action on the city's waste disposal services, including the spring cleanup event, future cleanup scheduling issues, and missed pickup notifications to the city and the residents. Recognize Ms. Hudson for her agenda item.
Okay. Somebody mentioned previously that there were a lot, I guess Shanti, when she was thanking us for the spring cleanup, thanking staff, whatever, that there were a lot of fussing on the WhatsApp about why do they always do it at spring break? It's not fair. We don't get to participate, on and on and on. So I wanted to go over what worked well, why we did what we did, and how we can address that in the future so that we are sure that everybody gets to take advantage of this opportunity to get rid of big stuff that they want to dispose of. And there was some comment online about we have to do it when Little League is not playing because it takes up, and somebody goes, well, just, put them out for 4 hours. It's like, well, it's not 4 hours. The dumpsters are there all weekend. We can't do it while the Little League is playing because it takes up too much space in the parking lot. There's not really another good place to put them because the part behind the Shell station, the access to that,
Correct.
you don't want people driving stuff on a incoming road from Bee Caves. That's just not a good setup. So spring break has been a traditional time for that to be done. We have, in the contract, we have 12 dumpsters that are included in the price that we pay. We use 3, right, for the dumpsters?
Yes.
So we've got another 9 dumpsters available for.
We do use them for other, but yes, we have some level between 3 and 9, but we.
Well, hopefully our construction projects are mostly done where we would need to use those.
We occasionally use them for our trash clean, our clippings and that sort of thing.
The next storm.
But yes, we do typically have some.
Yes, but if we have a big storm, so we don't want to not use any of them and then not use them.
Agreed.
The whole year. So we do have the opportunity to have another weekend at some point where we could have another cleanup. There are a couple of other things that I had thought of, and I did not contact the City of Austin, but I'm willing to do that, to ask them. I was up several times, and the dumpsters were full, so it's not like we didn't fill them up because it was over spring break. The dumpsters were full. I was up there several times with stuff, and we had people that were bringing electronics and wondered if they could drop that off. I think we've already said in our post online that we can't take appliances unless they've been, cleared, whatever, and hazardous materials, paint and pesticides and that sort of thing. City of Austin has a recycle and reuse center that's down south of, kind of over by Kaiser Golf Course.
Yeah, I've been down there.
Over in that area. Very convenient. They take tons of stuff.
And we're allowed to use it.
Yes,
Rollingwood
it's
residents
city-
can use it
city
for
of-
free.
I think it's Travis County, but I've taken a bunch of stuff there too. And I was gonna check and see if there was a possibility of us, instead of having everybody from Rollingwood, if we could accumulate it and then have city staff, like a trailer, city staff take it so it all went in one delivery. If that was something that we could offer, instead of having, somebody's old TV goes in the dumpster, it's like it actually could go someplace where it can be recycled, and other things like that. So it would make it more convenient for the residents and for things to be more responsibly handled. And as to the pickup, I had also, I don't have a contact with the Boy Scout troop anymore, but I know that we have people in the neighborhood who have Boy Scouts, that we could see if they wanted to do a service project or somebody, Eagle Scout project, whatever, neighborhood kids that need service hours, that could, the Boy Scouts have trailers, like if they could do pickup and delivery service, right? So people wanted to know, somebody on the WhatsApp said, I pay $30 if somebody come pick up this thing. Well, it would be a good fundraising opportunity for them to provide that service, to pick up if somebody's got something that they don't have a vehicle to transport it in, or they're not able to pick it up, where they could provide that service to pick it up and bring it up to the dumpsters. And so that way it would make it, if you're gonna be gone for spring break, you can put it on your front curb, right? Or make arrangements with the Boy Scouts, here it is, you know, they could pick it up and then it's gone when you get back. So I think there are ways that we could enhance the program that would make it more convenient for people, provide better, and well, I know that they pulled out, city staff pulled out usable items and left those out for like a, you know, come and take it, or if not, then we take it to Goodwill. I think that's a good option too. We tried having a Goodwill truck at the spring cleanup one time, but it was really bad weather, and so we didn't get a good turnout. So I don't know if we could do that again, but that's also a possibility. Or, you know, people trying to get rid of things, instead of putting it out on their curb, they could save it for the Goodwill, or we could continue the way we were doing it. But anyway, there's just some things that I had thought about in trying to address the concerns that were raised, and some things that I noticed during the cleanup, just to make sure that we're being more responsible with our.
Yeah, no, those are good ideas. Help us remember as next year rolls around. We're happy to look into the.
Or if we want to have another cleanup in the fall.
Yeah, we could do that.
You know, have dumpsters again, so that people that were not able to participate this time, since
Yes.
we have the dumpsters.
And you were correct, and as I pointed out, there was no right answer. You were going to.
Well, if we don't have, if we did something like late August, people are getting ready for school. I mean, you know, sometime in August, we don't have baseball.
Yeah.
Have a short window weekend where people that are on spring break could use it.
So I'll support a fall cleanup. I think it's a great idea. But doesn't our trash service also offer curbside pickup and various things that just we should educate people, remind them, because some of what we're talking about they already do.
Yeah, to some extent.
We had a bulk pickup in there, but I thought we took that out the last time because nobody ever used it and we were having to pay more for it.
Right. That we don't have the mass bulk pickup. I think there is an option for them to do an extra pickup. Is that right, Lindsay? Sorry, I put Lindsay on the spot. You can call, I think, if you got. Go ahead.
I'll say Ashley used to do this for me. So
yeah.
Yes, you can request an extra bulk pickup. You can just email me, and I can contact Waste Connections, and we can schedule a date. And you just put it on your driveway. They'll pick it up. If it's like brush or trees, I know you have to cut it down to 3 feet. That's kind of top of my head right now. But if you have questions, if you want to do a bulk pickup and have questions, if they can pick it up, I can definitely talk to you about that as well.
I will just remind everyone, the contract that we have for our trash is probably our most affordable contract by far of anything we do. And part of the reason is that we're somewhat low maintenance, and that includes not doing some of these more elaborate pickups. And the city is the only city that I know of that actually pays for that for their residents, as opposed to the residents paying for it themselves. So just a reminder, we've got a pretty good deal. So.
But if we exceed that, we'll adjust it. But if we did a spring and a fall, but
well,
all due respect to the community, like there's a lot more people would be in here yelling at us if we disrupt the Little League schedule.
You're right.
Than there are for
well, and Sarah
people
makes the
that
point.
miss
We
spring.
do have the extra. We do have those other, like it's much easier to just pick another weekend and put some put some dumpsters out. There is a staffing component to that too, that our staff does a great job of actually being there to help unload and that sort of thing, which we could probably do that twice in a year, but
We could also get some more volunteer support for that.
true.
Well, I voted against that date.
I was wondering when that was.
Fair
gonna
enough.
come back.
One other, the last item on that was a missed pickup.
You're a genius.
A couple weeks ago, the Thursday pickup for recycling and for trash didn't happen in my part of the neighborhood. I don't know if it was the whole neighborhood or how far it was, but it didn't come on Thursday. They did come for the trash on Friday. In my neighborhood, they didn't come for the recycling. And by 6:45 Friday night, I went, well, they're not coming, so I put mine away. And then they came Saturday morning. And I had a full load of stuff in my recycle bin. So, but I called Thursday afternoon to ask because the trash hadn't come, and Lindsay called and found out that they had a truck breakdown or something, but they didn't come, and they were going to come the next day. But we had all kinds of people that were concerned. We didn't get any notification. They should be telling us if they can't come. Let us know so that we can notify residents, so that they know, so they're not asking, so they're not calling, because they, again, online, they were going, call the city and ask, and I went, no, I already called, here's what the deal is. So they didn't get, 100 calls from people going, my trash didn't get picked up. Anyway, if they know they're not coming, they should let us know, so that we can let the residents know, and they know whether they should leave their stuff out or they're not coming and they can put it away, or when they're coming. So anyway, I just thought that was something that we should ask them to please notify us of.
Will do.
All right, thank you.
Okay, hearing no additional action on agenda item number 12, we'll move on to agenda item number 13. There is no action here. This is just your friendly annual reminder that we do post all of the reports at the bottom of the agenda item, not for action, but they're available for your perusing. And with that, we will...
Can I ask one really quick question?
Sure.
on that? So we used to have a top water users report that we don't get anymore. I was wondering if
I remember that a long time ago.
there was a top 10 water users report, residential. It didn't identify addresses or anything, but it was just by volume. I think that would be helpful for us to know, and when we're looking at water rates and other things that we need to be addressing, just so that we are aware of how much, and trying to find water contracts, so that we kind of know where we're at with.
Happy to include that in my next report and every subsequent report.
That'll be great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Some people are watering more than just.
All right, with that, we will move off of the regular agenda and on to a quick executive session, and we will go to executive session at 9:40 p.m.
there's a shredder over there. We replaced the shredder box with the shredder.
Come on, guys.
I was gonna say, you got a quorum.
Are we on? All right, the city council for the city of Rollingwood is back in regular session at 9:52 p.m. No action was taken in executive session. And with that, I am open for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
You have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no.